Comics, and we're here with esteemed Frank Golgol of, I hope I did not fuck that up, but yeah, there you go. So you guys, let's have at it and everything and talk away because we had some shitty news yesterday, and you know what? We could use a few laughs right now.
Most definitely. Hey, Frank, I want to appreciate you for being here and hanging out with us and talking to us about your older books, your present book that you're working on that you just released and announced. Also, I want to make mention on the fact that you sold out a limited run of copies of yesterday, probably within, I think it was within 7 minutes of you announcing that they were available.
Yeah, it was surprising, honestly. I'm a very managed expectations kind of person.
It was awesome. It was impressive, and it left me wanting.
Well, I may have hung on to a couple of copies for later. We'll see.
Cool. Well, one of the things I wanted to bring up is the fact that when Kai and I first met you, you end up, how should I say, privying us by giving some of the information of No Heroine beforehand. And
yeah, I got to read that.
And the only ask of you was not to release the information too much that you were giving us. Now that it's finally out, can you kind of tell the community what the story is about, how many issues it is, how long it took you to write it, all the questions we all are dying to know.
Yeah. Well, first things first, I'm really bad at secrets. So I've been talking about the book publicly in some capacity for like a year. And the announcement was yesterday. And I've definitely been talking about it like the last 4 months. So yeah, I showed you guys some stuff, and I showed a whole bunch of other people some stuff. Anyone who's like subscribes to my newsletter, I think at this point has probably seen all the art. I'm just bad at secrets. I get really excited. Yeah, No Heroine is it's kind of like my love letter to Buffy, but like told the way I would tell it. Because not many people get to write the Buffy comic, like 10 or 15 people every 10 or 15 years, right? So I couldn't count on like my chance to do it. So I always knew that I wanted to tackle some kind of like Monster Slayer, Buffy-esque character. But it didn't really sort of come together for me until 3 years ago. 2 years ago? I wrote it 2 years ago, actually. So I was at a convention in Philly, or outside of Philly, with Chris Madd, who did the covers for Dead End Kids. And he and I were talking when I lived in New Jersey. We shared a shop, and we were buddies. And we got talking over drinks at the end of the day at the con. And he was like, we're buddies and we've known each other a while. If you ever want to do a book together, we should definitely do it. And I was like, yeah. And that's kind of what you say to all artists. You just say, yeah. I mean, if something comes up, like definitely. Because you can't just make a project happen. There's a lot that has to go into it before you can even talk about doing it together. So I left it at that. Like, I like Chris. I love Chris's art. And I wanted to, but I just didn't have anything. I was getting ready to write Dead End Kids. So on that Sunday night, I got on the plane to head back to San Francisco. And by the time I got off at SFO, I'd written pretty much the whole first issue. Like, it kind of just poured out of me. So technically, I wrote the first issue of this before I wrote Dead End Kids. And then I wrote the last issue of this after Dead End Kids came out.
Oh, there we are.
There we go.
So did it feel kind of, how should I say, like you're just kind of waiting in the wings for it to happen then?
Not really. Like I am very, very productive. Like I really put a lot of energy into like pretty much everything I do. So like, if anything, I was looking for time to make it happen and like time to put into the project. And with Dead End Kids happening sort of in the middle of writing it, that sucked up about a year of my life between, writing and getting that book produced and putting it out, and it being a much bigger hit than I ever like really imagined it would be. It sort of extended the life of the book for me, like on a thing side, like by 6 months.
Did Kids achieve a Title 2019 Best New Series?
Yeah. So, like you said, Dead End Kids actually achieved you a 2019 Best New Series Award, right?
Yeah, fan vote. A lot of suckers out there voted for me. I don't know why.
No, man, your writing seems very consistent, and for an individual that's been relatively new on the scene, you hit it hard.
Yeah, well, I had a fucked up childhood, and I have like a lot of stuff to talk about. That's a big part of it. But also, like I said, like I don't stop moving. I think that this is factually untrue, but it's very widely known that like if a shark stops moving, they die. And I don't think that's true, but that's sort of like the attitude when I started doing comics. Like if I ever stop doing stuff, like I'm just going to die in the water. So I might as well just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. So that was helpful, I think, with getting the word out for the book and mobilizing people to go pre-order and stuff like that.
So what is your process when you're writing? Yeah, I mean, like grief or
kids and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly like I've been doing this. So today's April 1st, so I've officially been writing comics for 4 years. I wrote my first script in April of 2016. And it's like even 4 years later, like it's still really evolving, and I'm sort of like building tools for myself, kind of like, if that makes sense. There's a podcast called Portrait of an Editor. Francis Lombard does it. And he used to edit at Humanoids and I think another publisher. Now he does this podcast where he focuses on editors. And it's one of the podcasts I listen to and pay attention to the most because, yeah, it's a point of view you don't get a lot of. And he had Daphne Plevin on, who is the editor on Power Rangers, which is my favorite book. But Daphne is also an incredibly smart editor, and they just did a big long episode with her, and she started talking about how she handles giving notes, and like I started rolling that process into my process and building out. I use a lot of spreadsheets. It's pretty technical, honestly. So it's just it starts with like a question usually, or an idea, some kind of character I want to like look at, and then I sort of build everything around that. So for Dead End Kids, I had this idea. I had a question like, does the shit that happens to you when you're a kid like determine who you grow up to be? Like, does it fuck you up so bad that you can't like still end up being like a good, productive member of society? And I sort of built a murder mystery story around that, not the other way around. And everything I do and create is sort of slave to the idea. So like the murder mystery, you could take that out of Dead End Kids and swap it in with like a haunted house story or an alien story, but like the core of the character stuff is the stuff that I'm like really interested in. Everything else is kind of set dressing. Paul Aller, who writes, he did some Power Rangers, he's done a lot of Ninja Turtles, he's on G.I. Joe right now. He's one of the guys who mentored me early in my writing, and he sort of described story as like an old spaghetti western, like the shootout scene. We got the two guys on opposite ends of sort of like the main street or whatever it would be called.
Corral style.
Yeah, and then you see like the saloon and the bail bondsman and the sheriff's office all sort of lining the sides of the street, and it adds to the story and what's going on. But then like the director says cut, and you can like walk around behind the storefronts and see that it's all held up with like stilts, and it's all set dressing. It's all something to enhance the story being told, and I took that to heart. So with No Heroine, I just wanted to take sort of a closer look at sort of the recovery part of addiction. And because like, I don't know, addiction's sort of either overly sympathetic in pop culture or like overly demonized. And I grew up with two addict parents, and a lot of people in my life have struggled with addiction. And I know that there's a lot more gray space in it than that. So I wanted to create a story for a character who sort of occupied that middle space. Kayla's not a very good person, but she's trying to be a better person. And in a lot of ways, she kind of like is her own worst enemy and makes things worse for herself. And like just throwing some vampires and stuff into that story is like kind of like that's the recipe, right? Like I'm really more interested in what's going on with Kayla than with the drug dealing vampires or the werewolf or whatever she's fighting.
Interesting. So obviously you're introducing, because I didn't know you were having werewolves inside your story. So obviously you have werewolves.
I didn't say that. I just said whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yes, there's a werewolf in the second one.
Well, you're the one that said you're not good with secrets.
I'm terrible with secrets.
What inspired you to create these stories?
A lot of things. I like story. Like, I think the thing that I connect with the most is story. I sort of, when I was growing up, like I got into comics to kind of have escapism. You know, things at home weren't awesome, and like comics and like cartoons and stuff like that were like a way for me to kind of step away from it and like hide for a bit. And you know, as I get older, I realized that I really loved reading and I loved comics and I love, yeah, Buffy and like other TV shows that really resonated with me. And like at some point I decided I wanted to do that for myself. And I think it was right towards the end of high school, I decided like comics was the one I was going to do it in, like the medium. Yeah, it's, I mean, the inspiration comes from everywhere. Grief is a really good example of that. There's 10 stories in the collection. Each one really has like a really unique kind of sort of origin. Some of them are really personal, like some of them are just about autobiographical, and others are the sort of things I've witnessed and been sort of adjacent to, like other people's stuff, that I thought would make for an interesting story. And I was able to work with those people to help tell those stories really well, or I hope really well at least. So it's sort of like, I don't know, whatever idea sort of like gets in my mind and I can't stop thinking about it, that's how I know like that's the thing I want to tell.
Ah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I know when I personally read a lot of your stories, they seem very personal. You know what I mean? Meaning it doesn't seem like it's just a story. It just seems like it's someone almost biographical. You know, and I get that impression almost from everything that you write. So are you kind of, is this more real, true life situations that are manifested into a fantasy? Or, I mean, how's this process work? Because, I mean, because it differs than other writings I see.
For me, like when I first started writing, I kind of set down some rules for myself about like what I wanted to do as a writer, and like kind of outline the things that I like in other stories, things I wanted to do like with the books that I'd write. And one of the things I wrote down is like I really wanted to focus on character first and foremost, like the thing that they're going through, not so much the aliens or the superheroes, because that shit's done to death. Like, I mean, you can open up 100 Marvel books a month and see superheroes punching each other, but I'm more interested in like the superhero who, you know, lost her kid because she's a superhero, and like it's, you know, kind of the classic Spider-Man situation. You know, doing the right thing doesn't always end up right for you in the long run. And like I really get that from like Joss Whedon. Like I'm going to keep talking about Buffy, like it's super relevant to me. But the Buffy, like from an early age, I think I watched Buffy starting when I was 9 years old, way too young. You know, those stories are they were way ahead of their time, and really set a tone for me. Like I'll never forget the season finale of the second season of Buffy, and like this is spoilers for a show that's well over 20 years old. So
Yeah.
but so yeah, essentially, you know, Buffy's boyfriend Angel has become evil and he's trying to destroy the world, and you know, she's sort of finally accepts that like to save the world she's got to kill him. And right at the last second before she kills him, like he sort of reverts and doesn't remember anything that happened, and she still has to kill him anyway to save the world. She got the person she loves back, and she had to make the hard choice and do the right thing. And like I really like stories that like are when the hero wins, they also lose. That's like every classic Peter Parker story. Yeah, Dr. Octopus robs a bank and Spider-Man has to suit up and stop him, and he misses, you know, birthday dinner with Aunt May, and she sat there by herself at the restaurant, and you know, Peter's a piece of shit. So like that's, you know, between Joss Whedon and like early Stan Lee and the Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko storytelling, like that's sort of the foundation for like what I want to do. But I also draw like on stuff from my own life, like, you know, No Heroine is about addiction. Addiction is something that has affected my life in a lot of ways. Dead End Kids was about childhood trauma. I had a terrible childhood. I never solved like a murder or anything, but the core of the sort of heart of the story is about stuff that I went through on some level. Like I mean, part of it's just writing what you know. Yeah, I could never write a book like Vagrant Queen, because I'm not a lesbian, I'm not a Viking, I'm not a lot of those things, and like I wouldn't have a touchstone, and I wouldn't feel comfortable or like I would be able to competently tell those stories. So like, it's part of it is having to just stick to what I know and tell stories within that space. There are sort of exceptions. There's a story about a trans girl in grief. And the way I went about doing that is I worked with a trans creator to make sure that a good representation and not like, a caricature or poorly representative. And from time to time, like I do that. Because I don't want to be stuck in a tiny box of just being able to tell stories that deal with me. Like one of the things that I don't like about Dead End Kids, and this is looking back, is the cast is all white. It's not anything that was done on purpose, but it is what ended up being the case. So I talked a little bit about Dead End Kids too. It's coming. It's being written right now, and the cast is definitely more diverse, and not for no reason. And they're it's 3 kids who are the children of people who died because of or in 9/11, in a lot of ways. So one of the characters is a young Muslim woman, and I have an artist I work with, Ahmed Rafet, who was a practicing Muslim for a lot of his life, and he's been helping me make sure that the character is represented really well. And helping me to tell stories that are a little bit more interesting and diverse than Dead End Kids was.
Oh, that seemed pretty diverse to me. I mean, well, in the sense of the storytelling, maybe, but not the individuals that were in the story themselves.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not something that I did consciously. I honestly didn't write character descriptions. I let Nenad, the artist, sort of carry that, and we kind of kicked it back and forth. And Nenad lives in Serbia, which I don't think is particularly diverse. It's definitely not as diverse as America. So like, it's just it was more his point of reference and then me kind of just rolling with it. But I'm a little more conscious. I have a friend, Nolan, who works with one of SourcePoint's sister companies, Deepwater Games, and Nolan is Lebanese. And he loves the book. It's one of his favorite books that came out last year. He's probably thinks it's one of his favorite books of all time. But he did say, candidly to me when we were working a show together one time, that the thing that he wished that he could have gotten out of the book that he didn't is he couldn't feel like he related to characters. And that really resonated with me. Like it spoke to me, and it was something that I was, glad to be made aware of, because comics are for everyone.
What was your favorite story to write out of No Heroine, Dead End Kids?
You know what? I like Dead End Kids, but I think No Heroine is the better story. That's kind of going to be like for the reader to decide for themselves. But I think I was a better storyteller when I finished No Heroine and when I was revising it. So I think the quality of the storytelling is a little better. I'm sorry?
What about grief?
I love every story in that book. And I thought when I was writing it, I would look back a few years later, like where I am now, and be like, oh, this is terrible. These are the first things I ever wrote. They're garbage. But I mean, that book was so good to me. It was a really successful Kickstarter and kind of got me my first fans. When it came out in print through SourcePoint, like it sold really well. Like, I mean, for a really heavy topical book that is short stories, like it's a little bit of a hard sell, and we sold out a 4,000 copy print run in less than a year. It's going back to a second print. It got nominated for a Ringo Award last year for Best Collection. I mean, like it's the book that keeps on giving. Like every time I think like it's time to put this book away, it's given me everything it can. It gives me more. And I go back and I read it from time to time. It's just to see where it kind of came from, even though it's only been 4 years. And like some of those stories really, really hit me, and like I wrote them. And that just kind of, it's they're not all perfect, but like I don't hold myself to a standard that I needed to be perfect then or even now. I just need to be better tomorrow than I was today. And I look back at that book and I'm really proud of what I was able to do with my first work. And I don't know, like a lot of artists I work with are very hypercritical, and I understand that. I don't know, it just feels like a lot of energy to waste on something that you can't control, and just shouldn't be the focus. Like being better tomorrow is more important than being good yesterday.
Yeah, I kind of feel that, like with a lot of artists. And again, I'm not really a writer, but I will say this: what kind of annoys me about other artists, and some people go like, "How dare you say that?" But I'm like, look, stop tearing yourself down. The world's hard enough. So, okay, you didn't do the thing right. So that's what's called learning. That's what annoys the hell out of me sometimes. It's like, guys, just move forward from this. Like, how you drew when you were 5 years old is not going to be the same as you drawing at 20 or 25 or 40 or whatever. But people just get in these weird hang-ups like, I didn't do that perfectly. I'm like, oh my God, people, you just did it. You got hired for it. You did the
No one
thing.
noticed either. But
Yeah.
that's the other thing. Like it's like these hyper small details, like Rob Liefeld's feet. Like, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, like he was, what, 20 when he drew that shit? And then now he's like probably 40 something. So it's like, what are you going to do? It's like, all right, we did that. Okay, so let's go do the other thing,
Yeah,
So,
and it's just like, to be like really corny about it. It's a long journey, and like, if you go to the gym and you want to bench 200 pounds, you're going to start with 5-pound weights.
yeah.
Then you move to 10s and 20s, and then eventually you make it to 100. But on day one, you're not going to be the best, and like, there's no sense in trying to be. Like, having really managed expectations and realistic goals, and like a clear view of like, what you want and what you're capable of, are all like really essential to success. I don't want to say that I'm super successful, but I have had some success very quickly. And I think part of it, at least, is not worrying too much about what happened already and like worrying about what's going to happen next.
Yeah, it's like you got to just move forward from it. And like some people say, well, I don't know, people might give me shit about it. It's like, oh, well, they give you shit about it. So what? They're not going to like everything you do. It's just like dealing with real life. Not everybody's going to like everything what you're going to do. So screw it. Just do what you need to do. I mean, and also you just got to also know how to like filter criticism and, common criticism and not criticism and all this other stuff. And what do you want to take away with that? What resonates with you? What works with you? So you kind of go in this between this whole thing of like, conversely, like, they talk a lot about people that are really arrogant that go like, I don't need anything. I don't need any help. But then you have the other people that go like, oh, I got to do everything that everybody suggests that I do, and their art gets ripped apart. You can't tell what it is anymore. And past a certain point, you're like, okay, thank you, but I don't need to do that.
Yeah, well, there are two things, and I don't know if this is true for artists because I'm
Yeah.
not one, but I imagine that it probably is. There are kind of two things. It's what you want to be doing, and like what understanding which feedback is actually constructive.
Yeah.
Like being open to feedback is super important, but everyone's got a fucking opinion, and sometimes people may have the right advice that's not right for you.
Yeah.
Like, so if Rob wants to keep drawing feet that way, like that's what Rob wants to do, and he's going to be the best at it. That's what matters.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that too. Like after a while, it's like, okay, there's good and bad art, but really, like, there's a charm to each and every one of them for the most part. And I've seen really I've like seen technically very good art, but it's like dull. But then I've seen things that look like chicken scratches, and it's amazing for some reason. They're two very, very big polarizations, but you get what I mean. Like, I don't think it's just one thing.
Sorry, Brad.
Huh? Sorry?
I was going to say, it's the difference between like Jim Lee and Cyanide and Happiness. Like, obviously there's a huge valley between the two, but they both have an incredible value. Like, people love both of those things probably in equal measure, but for very different reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, and also it has to kind of fit what the comic's really about. And sometimes people don't understand that. Like, I love Johnny Ryan. He's really awesome, but he's just so incredibly fucking foul and disgusting. But it works. His stuff works. But, and he's got a lot of fans and everything. But I think he's, like, very good at, like, artistically doing stuff. Oh, God, one of my fans said, how did I get here? I don't know, man. You just got on here because it's the internet. But anyway.
Click the link. But yeah, like in terms of like artists that I really like I'm a huge David Aja fan, Dave Mazzucchelli, like people with like more not simplistic but like less complex styles. Like I think there's a lot of beauty in like the minimalism. Chris Samney, like those guys do a lot with a very little. And like it blows my mind, because you put them next to like Jim Lee or Brian Stegman, like people who who's on Green Lantern right now, like just like these hyper detailed artists, and each has got its own value for sure. And one speaks better to me than the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I love pretty art, but like I've looked at Sarah Anderson, so she does a webcomic called Sarah Scribbles, right?
I love
And
Sarah Scribble.
yeah, like the buggy-eyed, weird-looking fuck
Hmm.
thing, and you're just like, what the hell is this shit? But then it's like, but you like it, but you've seen her draw other stuff, and it's really, really good, and it's really pretty and everything. And I'm not dogging her, but it's like I like Sarah Scribbles better because I think people like that weird, messy look. You know, that thing where it's not so perfect. It's not so like, oh, I'm agonizing hours over it. I mean,
I
that's
think
why.
there's an element.
Go
I
on,
think
sorry.
there's an element there too that something like that, while not realistically, but like in the back of our minds, we're like, this isn't so complex. Like maybe I could do this, and like, that makes it a little bit more relatable. Like I look at Jim Lee's art, and I'm like, I could never do this. So, and that could be a part of the reason like I don't latch onto it the same as I do something with like a little bit more of a simple style. I don't know. I mean, that might be a total lie. I have no idea, but it seems like it could be the case.
Well, I think also like the art has to kind of fit the cartoon. Like for me, I do Demon Bitch, and it's about a girl I fucking hated. So of course I'm going to draw it like really nasty and disgusting. So, I mean, it's like this rubbery thing, and some people like have said they hated it, but then they look at my other artwork and they're like, "Oh, she can actually draw. I feel really bad for telling her that I hated this because it looks like shit." And I'm like, "It's okay. That's meant to look like shit. It's all right." But it's like now Demon Bitch is this whole thing where even if people fucking hate it and think it's a terrible piece of shit comic, I start laughing because that's kind of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's the highest form of praise.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
get
It's
it.
like no matter if anybody hates it or likes it or thinks it's the dumbest thing to the smartest thing in the world, I kind of always win in my creation because it's like, oh well, either way, it is applicable, so I don't care. So it's like kind of funny. And then you have like these striations of opinion. And what I've learned as an artist is that if people really love or hate your stuff, then you've done it. If people just go like, yeah, okay, it's all right, then you lose because you're not going to be remembered. At least be remembered for messed up shit or something.
Yeah.
So,
It's
I
like
mean,
what they say about PR. There's no such thing as bad PR.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, but it's pretty much, yeah, so that's pretty much it. I mean, it's like, I don't know, with art, it's interesting because it kind of like, I don't know, it's like, I think, you mentioned you had a bad childhood, and it's interesting because I think art kind of helps us cope, whether it's writing or artistic, not to sound cliched, but what's kind of interesting about it, like for me, it's actually Demon Bitch is great because it kind of brings out the internet trolls, but it also brings out me being able to fuck with them in a way that I laugh at them. And people go, like, one guy got really upset at me drawing Demon Bitch. It wasn't the content. I just drew Demon Bitch, and he says, what is this? How dare you? What is this supposed to mean? What are you trying to say? I'm like, dude, chill. It's a fucking cartoon. But I was laughing because he was getting so upset. And again, it wasn't anything about the subject matter. It was just like hanging out. So it was just really funny. And then he just got even more and more mad at me. And I'm like, it's a cartoon, buddy. I think she was just doing something stupid, but it wasn't anything like, oh, she was beating up a puppy or something. It was just funny.
yeah, I've been very lucky. I don't think I've ever had like a troll yet. I mean, I'm waiting. It's inevitable. Like,
Yeah.
but I always wonder like how I would handle it. Like, 'cause I've gotten very good about like biting my tongue and like not like on Facebook commenting on people's political stuff when they have like
Well,
really
yeah.
heinous opinions. Like I know that is just something it's like a rabbit hole for me. And especially like, being in comics, like I want to at least like try to manage my image, like whatever image I have. Like I don't want to be, like, because there's some people who like just don't stop. Like there's one retailer who, and I won't name his name, but he is hyper like anti-Trump and like
Yeah.
cannot stop himself from talking about it. And I can't imagine like what that does for his business.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like for me, I kind of just do a judgment call. Like if there are times like you got to say something. It's like if somebody's talking shit to you sometimes. It's like, do you
Yeah.
walk away or do you just like tell them to go fuck themselves or you just kind of fuck with them? It's sort of like, it's not like a
Yeah,
blank.
like I said, I've
yeah.
never had to deal with it, so I don't know how I would. But like, if
Yeah.
somebody's getting in my face, for sure I would say something back.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean with me I've had both. So it's like I don't know what it is for me, but I've had some idiots like try to go and dox me and I just go tell them, "Well, that's okay. You're enabling me to get my concealed carry permit." And they get really upset at me and I'm like, "Fuck you. I don't care."
fuck those guys. I'll put my own address on the internet.
Oh yeah. I'm just like, okay. And then they're like, you crazy bitch, you threatened me. I'm like, I didn't threaten you. I'm just telling you where I'd go. Fuck off. Leave me alone.
Man, that's crazy.
I've seen some pretty crazy shit, but it's like, you know, I think that's why Demon Bitch keeps me sane, so I don't go off on people sometimes.
Now,
But
do
yeah.
you find that there's she, as Christy was describing, it's almost like a catharsis. Do you find that it can be kind of cathartic in your writing?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Like, I've talked a little bit about this, but because there was like a huge gap between writing No Heroine #1 and finishing the series, like a lot of time passed between the two, and during that time, my younger brother Joey passed away from an OD,
I'm sorry.
which it was horrible. But like in a weird way, it was like the kind of thing that like made the book complete for me. Like, kind of put everything into perspective and gave me like the direction to make the book like what I think it was supposed to be. I don't think that's a silver lining. I'd much rather have my brother than have a comic. No. But it's being able to work through that situation while working on the book definitely helped. In a lot of ways, grief is about my mom passing away and like some unresolved stuff with that too. Not that I have like any kind of complex, but like, yeah, we had a complicated relationship, and I thought that I had dealt with a lot of that. And writing some of the stories in there kind of made me, as an adult in his 30s, realize, oh, hey, this thing still does bother me, and like here are all these ways it comes out in my everyday life, and now I feel more well adjusted and like, you know, just generally like more content. And every time I write something, like I feel like that, which is why I think like the stuff that I write about comes mostly from within, and like, you know, it's probably stuck in my head because it's something I know I need to address. Like, I'm not a therapist, so I don't know, but you know, writing a book about childhood trauma is pretty suggestive. Like, I think you can probably take a lot away from that. So yeah, it's 100% cathartic. And what's super interesting is like once you finish a book, like you become like an observer. Like, you can't change it. I mean, you could, but it would take a lot of work and a lot of money. So essentially, you can't. So like I can read Dead End Kids now and like see things in it that I didn't see before, and like my view of it has changed a bunch. It started with that question, and the book answers it a different way than I do, which is super interesting to me, like looking back on it. So the relationship of these books to the people who create them evolves over time too.
Yeah. So it's like, do you feel like some demons are kind of exorcised or come to terms with, you think, in a lot of ways? Like, you mentioned like some of the things, the traumas of having a childhood, your mother passing away and all that. Like, is it kind of put to rest some things that you feel that were long-standing while she was around, do you think?
Yeah. She and I were estranged from the time I was about 14 or 15 until she passed away when I was 19. And there was a lot, like I was just pissed off. Like, I was a really angry kid, which is a lot of where Murphy and Dead End Kids comes from. And like things that like I wanted to say to her, like I finally got to kind of put down on paper, and it's, I don't know, it's one of those like cheesy therapist things is like write it down and throw it away and like get it out. Like, I mean, that really did end up like applying, and I mean, this is a woman I thought that I hated for a long time. And I just realized that like, there's a difference between being justifiably angry with somebody and hating them.
Yeah.
It's a thing I thought I knew, like the difference between as an adult. But it's kind of one of those things you just experience it and like get some perspective on it. And yeah, you realize, look, people aren't perfect. I'm 30, 32, 33. I don't know what month it is anymore because it's lockdown. But you know, I still make mistakes every day. Like, you know, nothing too heinous most days, but you know, as I get older, I realize like nobody's perfect, and it's just not worth it to be mad, like, because then these people are gone. Like, me and my brother didn't have like a very strong relationship either the last few years he was alive, and then now I kind of gotta live with that and deal with that, and it's too bad.
Yeah. No.
Here with mother, boss.
Yeah. Thanks. Is this way heavier than you were expecting? Because I do this to every single podcast I'm on.
It doesn't bother me. I really like the honesty, and I really like where this comes from. You know what I mean? I like a person to be able to convey themselves. So I dig it.
Yeah.
I mean,
like me, I always end up inevitably talking my.
So good.
Yeah, I inevitably talk about my pancreatic tumor from last year, so what the hell? I kind of have a really fucked up view of it too. I've talked about it a couple of times on their show and on my show, and what it is that the tumor is just I basically was feeling like shit, like I felt like I was sick. I'll just give the abbreviated. You guys heard it, right? I think Dylan, you've heard it. I know Kevin, you've heard it. So the abbreviated thing was last late August, early September. I went into the emergency room. I wasn't like fucked up, but I just felt like shit. You know, I just felt like I'm trying to kick something and it's not going away. I'm getting worse and worse. I'm spending 3 days in bed and I'm fucking sleeping and I'm not feeling better. I don't even feel like exercising or anything or moving. And it wasn't like I was lazy. It was just like, fuck, I just like trying to sit up and do shit, you know? And there was something off about that. So I thought, oh, maybe I have a latent kidney infection because that's what I felt. So I go in there and they think to do an ultrasound. It kind of hurts a little more than usual because I've had an ultrasound before and, you know, it doesn't hurt. They just run it over your body, right? And then they said, oh, we see a mass either in your liver, your stomach, or your pancreas. I'm like, what the fuck? And then they do a CAT scan, and they said, we think you might have a malignant pancreatic tumor. That was fun to listen to. So essentially you're thinking, first 5 minutes, oh, I'm going to die. This is shit, you know? Fuck. And then I'm thinking my life is just starting. I'm starting to do work and it's being noticed and I'm living my best life in this bullshit, right? And then you kind of go through this existential like, oh, if you're dying, you're going to be really alone. And it's not that I didn't have family or friends that love me. This is not it. But it's like going through the process of dying physically. You are alone because you're the only one doing it. And that hit me. And I talked to family and all that, and I literally have to walk myself back off the ledge and say, all right, well, okay, right now I don't have cancer, so I'm going to treat it as such. I'm not going to focus on it. I mean, that didn't mean I was going to go home and say, hey, let's forget about it, because obviously it needed to be addressed. But right now they said very likely it is, and maybe, but as the week went on and when I went to the other hospital, I was told, okay, well, we're going to get it out or else it will turn into cancer, but chances are you'll be diabetic. So that was great the next day to hear. And then as it subsequently went, I got put under to do an endoscopy so they could physically see. So I found out with tumors, especially in the pancreatic region, if they're going to operate or something, they double and triple check to see how far it's spread if it is. So far my blood, the tumor markers were negative. They went in there, they didn't see anything spread. They did the CAT scan. It looked like as it was. So the final fucking thing that's awesome is they cut you up open a little. They look inside literally, and if anything's physically spread, they close you back up and said, sorry, we're going to do chemo. They did not do that with me. They opened me the rest of the way up, and they took out the head of the pancreas, which was 70% tumor, took out the pylorus valve and duodenum, the lower part of my stomach, because that was the blood circulation was very deeply connected with the head of the pancreas, so they got to take it out, or else it dies of necrosis. So they took that out. They took out my gallbladder, nothing wrong with it, but they had to reroute it. So essentially they pulled up my small intestine up, stuck the pancreas in the small end, stuck my stomach on the side of it, stuck my bile duct on the side of it, and that sucked. And here I have a big ass hill scar in my gut, which is great. And I'm laughing.
It was a horrible rerouting of plumbing.
Oh yeah, it was like, it's like when people say, yeah, you know, I think this might be elective surgery. I'm like, you have no idea. You know, when I see some people going like, I'm taking pictures of myself, look at me, but it's like, other than saying, hey, I'm alive, I'm just like, how could you? Because like even after the surgery, when I woke up, I was fucking tired. And literally what was great about it is that I had like tubes sewn in my stomach, and they said, oh, by the way, you need to get up and walk. You need to get up and walk and pass gas so we know that it works. I'm like, oh, fuck me, man. So I had to get up and walk. I had a catheter in me and everything. That was some shit. And I'm just laughing about it now because it was just really fucked up. That's why. So I had to walk around the nurse's station. So the more I would walk, the more I would get better. That's what they literally had to kick your ass out of bed, because if you're just lying there, you can get pneumonia because the lower part of your lungs will collect fluid.
Right.
So, and then this wakes up your bowels so that you can do that. And then the 3 to 4 months, you are just laid up in bed or tired as fuck, or you're hungry, but you really can't eat as much as you used to because everything else is swollen because they cut you and they sewed the shit out of you. So that was great.
Fun times.
Yeah. Giselina is saying, I relate to this heavy subject matter. Thank you. I recently lost both my mom and my sister before being able to resolve the issues between us. Just as the resolution, you can be justifiably angry while letting go of unnecessary hatred. Needed to hear that. So, yeah, sometimes it's so deep-seated we just get fucking pissed. That's all. So, there you go, Frank. You know, it's like, it's okay if it's heavy. I think it's just if you sad barf over everything without a purpose, it's kind of not good.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about a relationship to your artwork, people want to know it, you know? It's not like you're sitting there writing, like, you know, tons of, like, bad goth poetry or some shit, you know?
I don't know that.
Yeah. Hey, maybe that's warm-up for you. No judgment, man. So.
On the side.
But yeah, no, I agree 100%. Like, I'm honestly, like, a pretty reserved person. Like, I don't even talk to my wife about a lot of stuff. Like, I don't... It's just not how I process. Like I do a lot of like internal processing, and I go for walks and kind of work through stuff on my own. I don't like to be extroverted about it. And I think doing the work is how I get it out for the most part. Like I definitely, the 4 years I've been writing, I've felt a lot more mentally healthy than I did like the preceding 28 years. And like, it's just night and day. Like I'm just emotionally more healthy, a lot happier. I'm definitely kinder. Not saying I was ever like an asshole or anything, but like my ability for empathy and sympathy is just like so much more because I'm just kind of less wrapped up in my own bullshit. I wish more people would do creative things, and I feel like people don't feel like they have the time to do it, and that's probably mostly true. But it doesn't take much. Like I mean, 100 words a day.
But to be creative, that could be anything from cooking to playing with clay to, I mean, right? I mean,
building shit. Yeah, I mean,
right. There's no limitation. So I agree. You know, when you can express yourself in any artistic fashion, music, whatever, I think there is a form of again, getting back to using the word catharsis. You know, you're able to purge out, or in a sense, even appreciate certain things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think in the case of what you're describing, this is not only allowing you to go ahead and purge out some things, but allowing us to be able to receive good content.
Yeah, and on top of that, I get to like kill kids and tell vampire stories. I mean, like, I get to have fun with it.
Well, I think also like I think it's just like, I think what's uncomfortable about this situation or any other situation, because sometimes I look at self-help and all that, you know, just because the thing is that you just face your problems head on. And you do that by creating or writing when you go and do that intention. It's not like you say, okay, I'm going to go face my problems of my mom issues or some shit. You just kind of like, it just pops in your head and you start writing about it. It's like it's giving birth to a character, I think, at least from my experience.
Yeah, and you know what, part of it I think that people get hung up on is they think it needs to be good. Like if you're just doing it for yourself and like to get it out, like it does, like you should see some of the shit I write. Like, I mean, I don't think Dead End Kids is the best story in the world, but, like, I think it came out pretty good. But, like, the first draft of it was very, very bad. Like, very bad. Like, Transformers, Michael Bay bad. Without robots. Like, it wasn't even interesting. But, like, I did it, and I felt better about these things. And, like, just I mean, there's, like, a sense of achievement either, too. Like, if you set out to do something and you finish it, like, that's a huge boost.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to kind of go and do the whole thing about, like, you know, I think with me, like, this, after this whole operation, it was weird because I had this sort of weird thing of, like, making fun of it all the time. And even to the point that the doctors were fucking laughing at me right before I went into surgery. But at the same time, you know, it's kind of like, it's weird because, like, people on the outside were like, we're so glad you're alive, we're so this, and I kind of just went like, yeah, okay. But it wasn't like I was trying to shove it down. It's just sort of like, yeah, I kind of went through it. I'm fine. So whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, I mean, dealing with the after physical effects, because, like, while your whole GI tract is just fucking being an asshole, you know, you're just kind of like, there are days that I didn't want to do it anymore. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to commit suicide. It was more of like, all right, well, tomorrow I'll deal with it, you know, because it was just
fucking tired.
Yeah, you were just tired. And yeah, so, but I will look back and I think it improved my relationships with my parents because, like, after you go through something like that, you just kind of don't care anymore about being pissed off about what happened. It's weird. It's like, I thought about it because I think the tumor for it, I know it, like, it felt, looking back at it now, like my body was struggling against it not working. I had put on a lot of weight, and it's weird because, like, you think tumors and stuff with organs would make you lose weight, and it does sometimes, but sometimes it makes you gain weight the other way. So, like, weird changes to your metabolism that's the thing, and it was a slow grower. And I thought to myself, well, you know, I could be mad at my mom and my dad, because, like, the tumor also made me angrier. I don't know if it messed up with my hormones to make me angrier, but, you know, just you get tired after a while, and you don't realize it because it crawled up on you so slowly. And I was more angrier. Like, people notice now that, like, wow, you're really more relaxed. And I think also, like, almost kind of dying. But it's also, the thing is that fucking thing isn't vampiring off me anymore, sucking the life out of me. So it's like I'm actually in a better spot. Like, less things are aggravated. My body is less reactive to things. It's more just like, okay, like, if something weird touched my skin, I would get a weird ass rash. And now after that thing's gone, it's like, oh, okay, it's nothing. You know, it's nothing. But yeah.
Actually, speaking of vampires,
Yeah.
and the vampires that you used in No Heroine, could that actually be looked at as like a symbolic way of, like, you're using them as a symbolism of how they kind of suck the essence of life, and same with heroin, it kind of sucks the essence of life?
Yeah, there's a couple things going on there, and some of it, like, is really intentional, and some of it's, like, kind of serendipitous. I mean, you can't, first and foremost, you can't tell, like, a Buffy homage without vampires. Like, so, like, they were going to be baked into it one way or the other. But I'm pretty hard on my concepts to try and make sure that they're not cliche or, like, ground that's been, like, well trodden before. And you know, to varying success, but, like, I do try to make sure that the stuff feels at least fresh to me. And vampires have been done over and over and over and over again. So finding sort of, like, what the right angle is to work them into the plot was kind of hard at first. But then, like, I kind of looked at the story and, like, the character, like, I stopped focusing on the set dressing and started focusing on what I wanted to look at. And I realized, you know, this is a story about a recovering heroin addict. Let's make these vampires drug dealers. Like, let's put her face to face with her problem. So, like, then it was about kind of finding, like, how to do that best. And one of the things my personal experience with addicts has shown me, and you know, anyone who's known an addict, is, you know, that these people have a very hard time when they get out of rehab or jail, finding work and staying clean, and they have, like, this whole set of problems that a lot of people don't understand and can't understand. And it leads to, like, a secondary set of problems, like not being able to find a job, not having a place to live, not being able to sort of do all the things that average people need to do to sort of get by. And it makes them, in a lot of ways, have to rely on other people to an extent. So, like, my brother, when he would get out of jail or rehab, he would have to go to probation once a month. And he would and it would be, like, way the fuck across the state, like, where he was in jail, which was, like, way up north in New Jersey. And he couldn't get a job because he had a felony. He had a really hard time finding work, which meant he couldn't have money to have a car, which means he had a hard time getting to probation. And it's like a one strike kind of policy. Like, if he missed, he'd go back. So he would ask me for rides, and I would be very happy to do it. Like, I mean, I had a car, I had the time, like, yeah, he needed the help, I was happy to do it. But, like, when you do stuff for people, it becomes easier to ask for more help next time. And eventually it stops being asking for help, and it starts being sort of asking people to do things for you so you don't have to do them. And this is not necessarily conscious, but, like I remember one time I asked to borrow some money, and I knew that it wasn't, like, a loan. I knew I wasn't getting it back, but I lent it to him anyway. And then really quickly after that, he asked to borrow it again, and it became a habit. And it sort of moved from asking for help to taking advantage. And, like, to me, that, like, is, like, kind of what vampirism is. Like, it's feeding off of others to sustain yourself. So, like, that was kind of, like, where everything kind of came together for me. So we sort of put Kayla face to face with her problem and showed her a reflection of herself. And that's what the sort of first issue is about. Like, she's been clean for about 90 days. Like, she's not an addict anymore, and she's not having that sort of early days hard time with it anymore, but she has to come to terms with the fact that it's not like a switch. Like, you don't turn addiction off and then everything you did while you were an addict goes away. And she realizes that being clean is the first step on her journey. And like, that's sort of like the mini arc of the first issue, without like spoiling like what happens. So the vampire thing, like, you know, for aesthetic reasons, because it's a Buffy story, we wanted to have vampires. Because, you know, of narrative reasons, we sort of teed them up in a certain way and tried to, you know, do this specific take on vampires. And then that's kind of it. Like, I mean, the other thing we did with this book is we structured it a little more like one-shots than we did like a very serialized, like each issue leads into the next. Because, like, you know, that's how TV is, and that's how the Buffy episodes were. Like, you saw the character arc over a season, over several stories, and it built up. So we kind of had one narrative thread that goes through all 3 issues, and then each issue is sort of a standalone monster of the week kind of thing. And it adds up in a really cool way at the end. But that's one of the cool things about indie comics is, like, you can kind of defy those expectations. Like, a lot of people go into a 4-issue miniseries knowing that, okay, first issue setup, middle 2 issues are kind of like the meat of the story, and then the last issue is going to be like where everything gets concluded and tied up, and like that's the end of it. And with Dead End Kids, you know, between issue 2 and issue 3, there's a huge kind of sideways turn, and it defies expectations. And doing an indie book at a small publisher lets me do that, because there's no corporate overlord telling me that this needs to be very accessible, or that it needs to like follow what people are used to be good. And I don't know. And I think No Heroine's going to be a lot of the same. If anything, it's going to be even more left turns. I don't really remember the question you asked. I just kind of
no. Well, what you did is you did actually explain it in a different manner, which was even more than I could have asked for. So you're perfect.
I know I'm looking way far forward, but is there a possibility of the No Heroine story becoming a whole new world or an ongoing series?
I can't answer that question without kind of giving away the ending of the book, or maybe not giving away the ending of the book. But if you are a Doctor Who fan and you've watched like seasons of Doctor Who, you can see the way they kind of build in space in the story to tell other stories between like episodes and stuff. And we did a little bit of that to like leave the door open to tell stories between issue 1 and last issue, but not necessarily issues moving forward. Like maybe not like on that. I just don't want to say right now.
Sure.
But we could tell some more stories with Kayla, and there is like a narrative vehicle to do it. If people like it, I'd consider it. I'm not big on like sequels. They tend to suck. Like, I bet you can't name on 2 hands all the good sequels that have ever been made in movies. They're really hard to do. Expectations get really high, and people, you know, love these things so much that they get mad when they're not what they want them to be. So it's a slippery slope. And doing Dead End Kids 2 has been like really had to be really like aware of those things, and not combat them, but make sure that I'm aware. We have a good story for Dead End Kids 2, and it's not going to be what people are expecting. So, yeah, that you're not going to make everyone happy, and that's okay. I think we've got a good story though, and the same would be the truth for No Heroine 2 if we did another one. I do have a story that, you know, I'm just calling old woman Kayla, kind of like Old Man Logan, but for her, like what would she look like 60 years from now, kind of thing. Like that, I don't think that I'll ever tell that story, but like I like the idea of like every hero having their like Batman Year One and their Dark Knight Returns, like sort of like I love Casino Royale and a Skyfall for Bond. Like I think those 2 movies, that's his Year One and that's his Dark Knight Returns. So I always have that idea in the back of my head for every character I do, but that's just kind of just how my brain works. Like. And I think that's probably one of the better ways to try and do a sequel, like just huge time jump, kind of like different story with the same character, but like they have like a different thing going on. Because like a lot of sequels suffer from essentially trying to be a bigger version of the first movie. Like look at Iron Man 2, which I don't think is like the worst movie I've ever seen, but it definitely suffers from being Iron Man 1, but with more robots and
right.
more Tony Stark and like all the things that people loved about the first one. So it's, I don't know, like I think about it a lot. No, I'm not saying no. I'm saying we'll see.
Yeah, and Don Cheadle as a War Machine instead of Terrence Howard.
Yeah, Terrence Howard definitely looked the part. Like he looked exactly like I imagined Rhodey, but Don Cheadle's such a better actor.
Yeah,
I'm really torn.
I know. I hear it, man. I hear it. But all I was gonna say, I was a big fan of Dead End Kids, and hearing this, I want to read Grief real badly now. And Kevin knows I've been looking forward to No Heroine. I mean, I could relate to Dead End Kids. Like you said, you were kind of like Murphy. I would have said I would probably like that too, just an angry kid. But you know, growing up in Ohio, I've seen a lot of friends die from heroin, so I have a feeling that one's gonna hit pretty hard for me, just kind of like Dead End Kids did. And I'm a huge monster fan too. So are you gonna have werewolves in it, or is it just vampires?
Vampires in the first issue.
Okay, cool, man. Because
we're gonna do the cover reveal for number 2 in a few weeks, and then you'll know what monsters in it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm a huge Universal Monsters guy, so vampires, werewolves, that's right up my alley, man.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you'll dig it. And everything's got sort of like, I tried at least to have everything have a fresh take, because I love the Universal Monsters too. Like every Halloween, I throw on a marathon. Got all the DVDs. Like I love them, but they've been done to death. Like, and werewolves are real hard. But I think if we did do werewolves, I'm not saying we did, but if we did, I'd say we probably have a pretty good angle for it. Something a little contemporary. And I mean, the story that we built around whatever monster it is I think issue 2 of No Heroine's my favorite thing I've ever written.
Awesome, dude.
I don't want to set myself up, but
yeah.
Well, that's yeah. You put that bar up there now.
yeah, I mean, so my sort of internal thermometer for whether I think a story is good is if it makes me feel something. Like I watch a lot of movies and like a lot of TV shows and read a lot of books. I'm just like, that was okay, but like every once in a while, like this is gonna really I shouldn't say this out loud, but the movie A Walk to Remember is probably one of my top 10 movies, and not because I think it's a good movie. It's a terrible movie, but there's a couple of scenes in there where they really are able to make you feel something, and like that's rare for me. So like when I was writing No Heroine 2, there's a scene where there's a before narrative and an after narrative, and they kind of meet toward the end on one page, and like there's this really fucked up moment, and like when I was writing, I was like, that's it. That's the one. I should just stop right here, because I'm not going to write something better than this. So I'm looking forward to seeing how people react to that. I just got the lettering proofs for number 2 today, so it should be locked down in the next couple of days and start getting some reactions.
Yeah, werewolves seem to be hard to pull off, and that's actually my favorite too. Werewolves and vampires. But so you got me real excited, man.
Well, listen, when we hop off, hit me up. I got the first issue for you. If you want to check it out?
I appreciate it, man. I'll do a review for it whenever. Give me a time date, and I'll put a review out for it, non-spoiler review. Get people excited for it, because Dead End Kids was my indie of the year, man. So they got Grief on a trade. That's one really
out of print right now, but I got some copies. Let me see what I got left. I've been putting together some retailer bundles the last couple of weeks to get some product out to shops that need it. Let me see if I got one laying around.
Okay.
I mean, if you want a copy that is like unreadable, I got a really cool one that I could send you. Check this out.
Okay.
Where is it?
Oh God! If you're giving away private stuff.
Nah. Well, you know, this
look behind you. Oh my God!
I know, man. Look at that bookshelf.
You can't even see all the bookshelves. It's huge. But check it out. This is my favorite copy of Grief. It's the only one from the original print run that ended up like this, but it printed backwards. So like,
no way!
The first page, the title page is all the way back at the end. Like I don't know what happened, how it happened, but yeah, if you want like a really cool one of a kind collectors, I got you.
Hey man,
you got me all kinds of jealous, Dylan.
There you go, man.
You the man.
Man, that's awesome. Heck yeah.
I like to take care of people,
It's
man.
manga style.
Yeah, exactly.
It is. It reads right to left or left to right.
Yeah.
So, just about.
Oh my god! Wait, it's actually printed reverse too.
That's what he's done.
Oh
Yeah.
my god!
So here's the back page, and there's the title page.
Whoa.
On the back
what?
of that.
That's like that Ice Cream Man issue that reads like left to right.
Yeah. I like shit like this. It's cool, and
That is cool.
I mean, there are, I think, 15 copies left set aside for retailer bundles, and if those 15 come back like just regular, this is the only one that was like that.
Wow.
So, Kevin, I know you had some rapid fire questions you wanted to send.
Absolutely. Love to hit you. So, Kyle, will start them off.
Yeah, let's do that. And I'm get back to my day job because I'm definitely do this privilege.
Yeah. We appreciate you being here. We really do. And it sounds like to me you're going to have to hang out with us again after which some of these things drop so we can actually talk about.
Yeah, this way to break the day up.
All right.
Do you like marshmallows?
Yeah. Who doesn't? Monsters. Monsters don't like marshmallows.
Oh, okay.
You're not gonna. Okay.
Yeah.
What was the last movie you watched?
The third James Bond, Thunderball.
Really?
Or is that the fourth? That's the fourth one. Fifth one.
This is the old
Thunderball.
school series, right?
Yeah, it's like the third to last of the.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's like.
I was thinking Skyfall for a second.
Yeah, no, it's what is it? Hang on, I got this. It's Dr. No. It's Diamond from Russia with Love. The one that's in Kentucky, Goldfinger, and that's not number 4.
Okay.
Favorite ice cream?
I don't know that I have a favorite ice cream. I really do like ice cream. I have more flavors that I don't like than I do like, I think.
Oh,
What flavors don't you like?
there you go.
Banana. Like anything flavored like banana tastes like ass. Like, and I don't know why. It doesn't taste like a banana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my
I
god.
don't like.
Syrup
I don't
banana.
like-
Disgusting.
I don't like caramel either. Anything with caramel in it, I'm probably not gonna
Wow.
like. I just
No,
something
no
about
Milky Way.
yeah.
Okay.
Milky Ways are kind of okay, but like cold frozen caramel and like caramel candies like are hard passes every time.
Okay.
Did you ever skateboard?
I tried. I grew up around the time and at the right age to have played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Oh
on the
god, I
double
remember that
skateboard.
fucking game.
And I definitely had a skateboard and I looked really cool with it. And I definitely fell off of it a lot. But yes, I guess.
You and me both, man. You and me both.
Yeah, I tried it once and I fell on my elbow a couple times and I hit some other things and I'm like, that probably sucks, so no, I can't do it. Fuck it.
Your elbow.
I had a friend who was really good at
I
skateboarding. So I got to ride his coattails.
Hey, what?
I had a friend who was like a really good skateboarder and went like semi-pro.
Damn.
And he looked good for the rest of us. So like I just got to hang around with him and like I didn't ever have to do anything. I just got to be there. I was really good at Tony Hawk though. Tony Hawk's Wasteland.
Yeah. Well, that's the other one.
Or Underground.
In-
Tony Hawk's Underground. That's the best game ever.
That
So
was the last one, wasn't it?
No, that was the first one for Xbox. It was where you could like have a skill career.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was great.
No, because I was
Skate
thinking of
3
like
was-
Road Skaters, then the Underground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Skate
That
3 is where it's at, though.
Okay, 3.
Kai,
Skate
I'm too
Yep.
old for that. I don't know. What that
Okay, so you're not playing games anymore?
I play games. I do find myself sort of like playing games that are older or like games that are remade now that I missed. Like I'm
Final
playing
Fantasy
Resident
VII.
Evil 2 for the first time.
Final Fantasy VII, you gonna do that?
Shadow of the Colossus.
I played Shadow of the Colossus, which it was a really good looking game, but it was kind of boring. Like you just kind of go kill these 12 monsters.
Yeah,
And
for
that's
no
all.
reason, yeah.
Yeah,
Well-
I liked it. It was fine. I'm playing Resident Evil 2 now and Uncharted 3. Sort of
They
going back.
remastered. Didn't they remaster Resident Evil 2? Everyone, I heard that really, really good now.
Yeah, well, both of those games are getting remastered, and that's why I'm playing them now. Like I missed them the first time around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big
Yeah.
Metal Gear fan. I'll play Metal Gear anything all day.
Oh yeah. Snake,
about
man.
God of
He's a
War?
Badass dude.
What about God of War?
So you guys can't see it's on the other side of the computer, but my stack of games to play is Uncharted 4, God of War, Resident Evil 2, Last of Us, and the first 3 Uncharted's.
Okay.
So like
you're
that
and a half.
That's yeah. I mean, at this rate, I'll finish them in the next month or so because I'm stuck inside all fucking day. Yeah, and then I on the Xbox, which is out in the living room, we've got the Tomb Raider series that came out the last couple of years.
Oh, that's good.
It's a good game. Those are good. I really
I beat the first one when it came out, and then I kind of fell off. It came out like the same week as like Daredevil came out on Netflix, and like I just fell right off when I started watching Daredevil.
Yeah.
Never got back on.
I beat the first one. I only played like the first couple levels of the second one, and then I fell off as well.
Yeah, I don't play a lot of games, but the ones I do, like I play like 100%. Like I played Metal Gear 5 and got 100% on that, and it took like 2 years. But like,
Oh my god.
yeah, it took forever. Like getting S rank on everything and like finding all the animals and shit. Like, but I don't know. I got OCD, so I gotta be careful. Like I could never play Skyrim. Never. I would never finish. I would do everything and keep going.
Sure, some people just play Skyrim and can like never finish. There's a lot, but you can also do like nothing and just beat the game.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I played Skyrim for like an hour or 2 hours, and like at the end of it, I was like the vampire king and like a pirate and like had a house and shit, but like I hadn't actually started the story, and I was like, nope, this isn't for me. I'll never finish this. Same with like, I tried to play Red Dead Redemption 2. And like the game is just too big. Like I'll be here for the rest of my life being a cowboy. It's like Westworld for like real life.
I got like 25% in, and I was like, man, I'll put the whole next year that's into this.
You're like, and now it's next month.
Yeah.
It took me an entire winter break to beat Red Dead.
Yeah, I played the first one and I beat it and I liked it a lot, and I love Westerns. Like I love Gun back on Xbox, and there's a couple other really good ones. Well, it's too much. Also, the guy walks way too slow. Like part of the reason the game takes so long is because it takes forever to walk.
And even to ride the horse when you gotta travel far.
In that first part where you're riding through the snow and shit, like it takes. I mean, it's immersive, right? It's realistic. They're trying to replicate what it would have been like, but I need like a fast forward feature.
Oh
exactly.
Yeah. Like okay, I'm not playing riding horse the game. Like holy shit! Like can I just ride? Can I just get there? Kind of thing.
Seriously, you'll be riding that horse for like 10 minutes at least. Sometimes if you gotta go across the country, it's crazy.
The one game where that like wasn't a problem for me is because like it was built to be good to do it. It was The Legend of Zelda for Switch, Breath of the Wild. I mean, like walking across. It took like 20 minutes to get from one side of the country to the other. Like I timed it. I think it's like 26 minutes. But like everything looked cool and like it was worth seeing. Mm-hmm. And they only had to do it once because then you could like fast travel.
Yeah.
But there was some pretty cool movement. You gotta lie, you can't lie. Shield surfing was probably one of the greatest things to ever happen.
Yeah, and like some of the like little dumb hacks people came up with, like standing on top of a metal door and using the metal power to like create a flying carpet essentially. Like. Yeah, it was fun.
I remember that one. That's a cool one.
It is a really cool game, man.
Have you heard of the one where you can hit the boulder a bunch, climb on it, and you stasis it, and then you just go flying?
Yep, get launched off.
Oh, well,
some dude surfed a log, like a giant tree he cut down.
Huh.
Like you said, there's hacks all over. So like us, you're an animal lover. So you have a dog. What's the name of the dog?
Waffle. Her name is Waffle. I also have a cat now. I have a cat too, who I don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't like him though.
Well, you're just trying to complete the whole thing. You know what I mean? That's all.
Well, I've also got a wife, so she's got a cat. So I have a cat. It's sort of orders of operations. It's not my cat.
Deal.
Yeah, but his name is Pizza Cat.
Pizza Cat. So you have a Waffle and a Pizza Cat.
Yeah, well, it's after Pizza Dog from Hawkeye, the Matt Fraction run. He had Pizza Dog kind of floating around. And that was like one of my stipulations. Like if we get a cat, I get to pick it and I get to name it. So I found like the coolest cat that there is, but he's still a cat. And I named him.
Oh, here's my kitty. This is a fat ass right here. That's his.
See, I like other people's cats a lot because I don't have to worry. Like I can't. You guys probably can't see it, but I'm just drenched in cat hair. Like it's
Oh,
just
same here.
every inch of everything I own. We have so many rollers and like special shit to put in the wash to catch cat hair, and none of it works.
Yeah.
This is who I am now. I'm a cat suit person.
Oh man, I got a dog and he I wear black a lot, so I literally and he shed like he doesn't shed horribly bad because he's a pit bull, but he still sheds enough where it gets all over my black pants every time or a black shirt. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Waffle's a short-haired dog, and her hair is pretty like bristly compared to like the cat hair, so like it doesn't stick to much, but it does definitely stick to stuff.
Yeah.
And like I said, yeah, it's just who I am now. You know, I write comics and I live in cat hair clothes.
Hey man, it could be worse.
It could be. I have two cats.
Hang out, Frank. I know you got things you got to do. Before you leave, I ask of you if you could just tell the community how they can get a hold of you, how they can find your book. And before I let you go, I want to tell the community, I don't care if this embarrasses you or not, how much of an effort that you've been putting forth. As soon as this lockdown happened, I noticed that you were one of the first people I saw reaching out to as many people as you could, shop owners, artists, creators, publishers. I've seen you reach out and even offer free books, free online. I mean, you've been trying to help out so many people. And I, wanted everyone out there to know that doesn't know that you're doing this. Two, I wanted to thank you on behalf of the individuals that either have not been able to get a hold of you or have not been able to actually voice themselves like I feel like I have the ability to do so. So on behalf of those that you've helped, on behalf of the community, on behalf of us, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm honestly, I'm happy to do it. Like, I'm not out there trying to pat myself on the back. Like, I am comfortable and healthy and in a position to be able to help some people. And like, that's, it's important. Like if no one does that, everybody suffers. If everybody does a little bit of it, like it makes a big difference. So I'm just trying to do my part, but it's also like, a lot of people have helped me along the way. Like I have had people throughout my entire life help me. Even when I'd would reject it and tell them I didn't want the help and them take care of me when I needed it. And retailers and readers, they're the reason I get to do this. Like I can write all the comics in the world, but if nobody buys them or sells them, like I don't get a career. So like, I'm just doing what I can from where I'm at to try and give back, I guess.
Yeah. It's really awesome.
And then again, how can we find you? How can the community find you?
You know what? Also, put your link up as well in the chat, and also copy and paste and put it.
Kevin, you want me to ask him that one last question before?
Yeah, please.
Stuff? I was just going to say, I know you got the No Heroine coming. Are you working on Dead End Kids 2 now? But if there's any other future stuff you might want to...
You know what? I'm right now this week. I'm talking with Source Point Press about what 2021 and 2022 look like. Publishing goes out pretty far, so like the more lead time you can have, the better. And I've got a few things. There's a story I want to tell for Dead End Kids 3 if it's going to be a thing. I've got a pretty good story there, but like it's all dependent on how number 2 does and all that. So sort of that's kind of hanging out in the back. I've got a book called Afterbirth that I'm working on sort of slowly. It started as a really dumb pitch. We were working at San Diego a couple years ago at the con, and like that's a thankless show. It is horrible, especially if you're working it. Like it's god awful. And we play this game at the Source Point booth where we kind of psych each other up and like make each other laugh and just keep each other like from killing fucking people, honestly. But the game is like kind of just pitch a dumb idea. And so I pitched. Like I said, like, well, what if the alien, the xenomorph from Alien, got loose in the Power Rangers Megazord? Like, what would that be like?
That would be awesome.
So that's sort of like where the idea for Afterbirth came from. It ended up being like a very different story, but like there's definitely stuff from each of those things in there. Those are both things I really love. I love Alien, I love Power Rangers. So that's one I'm excited to tell, and that's one of the possible next things I'm going to work on. There's another book I've been working on for a few years. This one even comes from before No Heroine. It's called The Black Fractal. It's kind of like Silence of the Lambs meets Taken with like a splash of superpowers. It's dark and like violent. It's definitely very different.
You got me salivating.
Dude,
Yeah.
I usually don't get an idea and not make it into a book if I can help it. So far, everything I've wanted to write, I've written. So I imagine in some order, all of those will come out at some point. And then there are a few things else brewing that just it's way too early to even talk about. I think you could probably look for Afterbirth next and Dead End Kids 3 if Dead End Kids 2 does well. Those would probably be the next two. So we'll see. I'm excited for Afterbirth. It's going to be it'll be a pretty book. It'll definitely like have a different kind of look and feel than your average comic. Like it'll feel more like a Jonathan Hickman book, like one of his early books in terms of color. If I pull it off, like it'll look good.
man.
So yeah, lot to look forward to.
Wow.
The way you make your story, like you come up with ideas and then put like your own stuff into it, it's amazing, man. It's really awesome.
Man, I wish I could do it. I wish this was the only thing I had to do in my life. Like I would do twice as much, and I'd just do it. This is the only thing I've ever felt like I was good at. Like I remember opening up the email I got my first short story pages back, like the finished lettered pages, and looking at them, I'm like, fuck, man. A, I want to do this and only this, and B, like I'm not that bad at it. Like I could see myself like making something out of this, and that was like 4 years ago. So we're on our way. We'll see what happens.
I'm making a prediction right here, right now. June of 2021, you will be approached. By June in 2021, you will be approached by one of your stories, and you will be optioned. Now, I'm not saying they'll come out then, but I guarantee
I can guarantee
you will be on the show saying, Kevin, you're right, and I want to tell you first that this movie is being worked on.
Without saying anything specific, I can tell you you're wrong.
No.
For a good reason.
Really? Okay, I want to be wrong for a good reason.
Yeah, I cannot say anything more than that because like it is super early, but you're probably wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if it's for a good reason, I want to be wrong.
Yeah. I gotta be careful about what I say these days. It used to not be the case, and I'm bad with secrets, so it's gonna be a hard.
And I'm not a person that likes to get anyone in trouble. So you know what I'll say is we'll leave it at that. But that means that you have to promise that you'll be back, and sometime soon, maybe hopefully when everything's back to normal in a few months.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing anything between now and then, so feel free to have me back next.
Hey, you have an open invite at any time. You see Dylan, I'm sure you're more than invited to jump on his show, on Dylan's Comments. You ever see
him before? I just was too early in my career, so I was too nervous I'd screw it up. Do you remember
on somebody's first episode the other day? I have no standard of like if you want to talk to me, I'll talk about myself.
Well, I didn't have my setup right because you remember me before your wedding? I hit you up.
Yeah.
That was. I just was at the beginning, and I didn't have the right setup, and I was like, man, this book is so good. I was like, I don't want to put him on like a crappy show where we record an hour.
So let's do it now, and then let's just act like it was a year ago, and then you can just set the publish date to be last summer. It'll be fine.
I love it.
It'll be fine. I do stuff like that at work all the time. But yeah,
think about the scoop you would have too. It'd be over a year in advance.
Yeah, you'll look awesome. You wanted to know where people can find me and my work. You can't find any of my work pretty much anymore. Well, that's not true. Dead End Kids, the trade just came out. Because we've been on lockdown, I didn't get to do signing or anything for it, so it's like I keep forgetting. So Dead End Kids is out in trade now. If you want like old school first print issues, they're much cheaper on eBay now than they were, but they're still like kind of like on the pricey side for an indie book. Like I mean, $10 for the first one, I think. If you're like me and you want to like buy a graded copy, it might cost you a little more. This is actually a very special one. Some guy tried to say the book was optioned for TV, so I bought that eBay listing so he would have to make that label out and see my name on it and knew he got
That's awesome.
I got it real cheap too. Like these were going for like 100, 150 for a while. I got this for like $38.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, so like it was a big old win. But yeah, so Dead End Kids is out in trade now. Single issues, you're gonna have to find those. I know that there are a couple shops that have first prints though. Like I've been talking to a lot of shops lately, and like a few shops hung on to sets, so they're out there for people who are willing to dig. Grief has been out of print since last July. I've got a few copies left just from my personal stock that I've been hanging on to. But I'm sending those out to retailers this week. So essentially that one you can't get, but I'm giving away for free on Facebook. Like every couple of days I throw up a post with the link to just download it. People need stuff to read, and I think it's a hopeful book. So if you're feeling down, definitely go track that down on my Facebook and just read it for free. The second print is coming later this year, or it was supposed to. We'll see how things shake out with that. It will get a second print with like a slightly tweaked cover. It'll be inverted, so the sky will be black, or red rather, and the bird will be black. It looks pretty cool. Yeah, I wanted to do something special for the people who supported the book early and like let them have their own like unique version of it. But I couldn't change it too much. So it looks cool though. It'll definitely be better for people who want to read the physical one in a couple months. But in the meantime, the digital exists. And then No Heroine is coming in June. As long as the world doesn't end between now and then. Pre-orders are open right now. So anyone who's listening who wants to check out the book, hit up your retailer, your local comic shop, and just tell them you want No Heroine. Some retailers aren't doing pre-orders in April, but I think 99 out of 100 of the ones I've talked to over the last week or so have said they're planning to make their orders. So if your shop's closed, just shoot them an email, give them a call, hit them up on Facebook. That's how I talk to my shop owner. And yeah, like if it sounds like a book that you'll dig, definitely go pre-order it. If there are other books you're hearing about that you want to check out, definitely go pre-order those, even if it's not No Heroine. The shops are going to open back up eventually, and these pre-orders are going to start rolling in a couple months, and like that's going to be the product they have for the shelves. But if people don't do the pre-orders now, they're not going to know to get it, and then the shops are not going to have stock. So like everyone who buys comics should participate in the pre-order system, whether it's for No Heroine or Dead End Kids 2 when it comes out, or if it's for Canto. You guys have had David on before, I think, right? David's a buddy of mine. I know they're getting another book this year. Rich Duick's got a book coming out, CSRO's. It's a spiritual successor of Road of Bones from last year. There's lots of great shit coming, and like it's all in pre-orders now. So like, go plant those seeds for yourself so you have something cool in 2 months.
Awesome. Hey, Frank, again, thank you. Christy, thanks for, you as always, you're in this whole thing.
Hey.
What?
I mean,
we're going to do lunch dates every day. I love talking to you.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, just let me know. Sorry, I'm like, sometimes like the lag, like it has people like accidentally like simultaneously talking. Unfortunately, the internet is not the greatest even in California, but thank you so much. But I appreciate it. Yeah, and I appreciate you. And we should trade stories, definitely, Frank. And because I have some books actually that fit in the Western genre that you might like. I have a book that does that. Okay. It's actually better drawn than Demon Bitch, but
I'm open to read anything.
Oh, okay.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but that's
we'll
good.
Talk.
Yeah, definitely. I'll shoot you a message and stuff. So, but thank you. I appreciate it. But I'm glad we all had a great time, Dylan. It's good to see you that you're around. I see you pop up every so often.
I know the third shift, man, has been killing me, but yeah, I'm figuring it out now, finally. I mean, usually I would have been out till like 9 o'clock, but now that I've been working this third shift the last month, I've been able to kind of figure it out and wake up. If I set an alarm, I'll wake up and do what I need to do. So I can't sleep the whole day. I hate it, but I'll just sleep so tired. It's such a waste. I hate it, but that's why I work a few days third shift, and then I'll do like my regular landscaping job during the day. So, but that's why I love doing this first. So that's why I'm like, it kills me sleeping that whole day away, because then I'm like, man, I could be doing edited content or just anything else besides sleeping.
You're a hustler, man. That's gonna get you far.
Well, I try, man. I try. I just like to stay busy, man. I used to just do too much stupid stuff, and I seen too many of my friends end up dying because of the epidemic and stuff. Like, I just had a friend pass away recently because of it, and it's just something like they leave you nothing to do out in Ohio, so I just try to keep myself busy so I don't fall down. like I used to or fall like some of my friends have. So you just try to stay busy, man. Stay with good people, man. That's all I like to do. And this community has really brought me up, and I love them, man. It's the best thing, this comic community.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, hey, I thank everybody. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
Frank.
thanks, guys.
And thanks, everybody.
Yeah, definitely, guys.
Talk to you guys soon.
All right.
Yeah, most
See ya.
definitely. Take care.
Bye.
Great talking
Bye,
to you, Frank.
One, two.
Comic Talk. We out.
Lunch hour's over, guys. Bye bye.